That is a Harding National Championship t-shirt right there. 2023 NCAA Division II National. Just had to show off my t-shirt. Little 2023 this year. Yeah, they won it at New Year's or whenever. So yeah, they haven't played the 2024 season yet. Yeah, that won't start until October or something like that. The t-shirts just came in. Yeah. So, am I the only one in here without electricity? No, we're out. It went out at 9 something this morning. Right, it went out. Sounded like a shotgun blast when it. I don't know which transformer it was, but it blew out. Yes. We reported it on the app. No, we haven't talked to anybody. Yeah. Huh. Okay. All right. In the past, we just reported it on the app, and okay. Yeah, it started out they was going to have it on by about 5 o'clock this evening, then they bumped it up to 8 o'clock this evening, and now it's going to be noon tomorrow, is what they said on the app. So that's we'll give them a call when we get home this evening, then I suppose. Well, I'm glad that y'all got power. Yeah. Really? Yeah. All day. Oh, goodness. Did it? Okay. I didn't know that either. Of course, we've been just kind of sitting in the dark, which is normal, I guess. But tonight, we are going to tiptoe into Malachi. This is going to be a brief intro lesson. I'm going to do something just a little different with you guys tonight, just thinking ahead to our Bible class, Bible teacher series. There's a few of you guys sitting in here tonight that are going to be in that class. And so we're going to maybe start a little bit early with a little bit of different kind of study. So talking about Malachi, situated in your Old Testament, if you turn to Matthew and then start flipping back to the left, you're going to bump into Malachi immediately. All right, he's the last prophet in the Old Testament. Pretty easy to find, pretty short, 4 chapters. You can read it in less than 10 minutes. It doesn't take long to read those little 4 chapters. Typically what we're going to do when we enter in a new book is we got to establish a little bit of the nuts and bolts of the book. And so we want to date Malachi. We're not taking him out to dinner or anything, but we want to figure out when he wrote. And so you're familiar with the timeline. You can't see it. You may still have a copy tucked away into the pages of your Bible. I offered that might be good, to keep up with the timelines of the prophets. And there's another one just like it for the kings. But you're going to see on this timeline, if you could see up here where I'm standing, I've got to be about this close to see it, that the very last prophet in these timelines is Malachi. And he is dated the latest. On the timeline itself, I'm going to have to adjust that projector. The building's moving or the screen is moving, but this projector is now over here in the black part now. 350 BC. And we are at a prophet that is going to be one of the last to speak until we get to the Gospels, till we get to the life of Christ. There's going to be a period of time pass. It's, at least 350 years, maybe longer, maybe closer to 400. We call it the intertestamental period. And so there's a whole big history right there. It makes for a very interesting study. It's not as if Israel ceased to exist during those years. There's just silence from God. And so the prophet that we're about to study is one of the last to speak. So in and of itself, that makes Malachi pretty unique. We're going to date his writing from about 500 to 415 BC, when Malachi's prophecy or when he's working. And that's a rather large net. And that was using the timeline here You know, we got 4 different timelines, 4 different ideas. 2 of them overlap pretty snugly, and the other 2 are maybe just a hair older. But that's going to cover it. It's probably more like in the middle. 435 to 450 is where most are going to come down, which, you know, we've been studying post-exilic prophets. Take Haggai is encouraging Israel to continue the building of the temple, right? The foundation had been laid, but they had kind of paused. There was about a 16-year lapse taking place where they dropped off. They just stopped working on the temple. Well, now the temple is complete. We're looking at a time where the temple is done. Israel has now been back for quite a few years, decades even, and some things just aren't right yet. So we're looking at post-exilic Israel. Temple's built. I went ahead and put the date, about 516 is when the temple is finished. Temple worship should be happening. True, authentic worship of God as dictated by the law, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, a lot of instruction there. And, well, things aren't happening as they should be. There's some corruption, there's some sin in the camp, as it were. And as a result, covenant blessing hasn't been restored. If you remember Haggai, the promise was, if you return to me, I'm going to open the windows of heaven, as it were, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. He was going to redeem the land. The land was going to produce to its full extent again for them. Livestock is going to reproduce. Everything's going to be great. But yet, what we see here in Malachi is that promise hasn't been filled yet. And there's some very particular reasons for why it hasn't. And so that's what Malachi is going to deal with, is the sin that Israel is practicing during this time. Now, as we think about this, plotting it historically, and especially with the prophets, we see within Israel's history a certain ebb and flow or rhythm where God brings judgment. Israel is restored. We call it a time of blessing. There's a period of faithfulness. Then that faithfulness begins to wane. Israel falls away. God brings justice, judgment. Israel suffers. Israel turns back to God. They are restored. There's a time of blessing. They fall away. God brings judgment. So we see this Israel cycle is even what we call it. And so they have been brought back to the land. This is supposed to be a time of blessing. They've been restored. The temple's been rebuilt. And things are supposed to be in that good. Good time. Should be in a time of ease, relief from enemies all around sort of thing. But it's not happening. They're not experiencing the fullness of God like they believe they would receive through the covenant. We get into Malachi, and because our electricity was out, I did not print. I just assumed everybody on Buffalo Road was out of electricity. I thought everybody was probably in the same boat as I did, so I wasn't even worried about trying to reach out to see if anybody could print it for me. I'll bring it next week, an outline to the book of Malachi, and a rather detailed one. And that's all the note was going to be this evening, was just that outline. I'll print them and have them next week. Do you guys like the outlines? Do they help you? Do you find them beneficial? Anybody? I don't want to waste ink if you don't like them. All right, we got at least a couple, 3, 4. The outlines kind of help me if I look at it, kind of read through it rather quickly before I approach the text, because it kind of keeps my eyes open, kind of looking for things as I go. But on the screen, I'm going to suggest a format for you. And this is kind of what I'd like for you to do before next Wednesday, because I know none of you do anything in the week between now and next Wednesday, so you got time to do this. You read through the book of Malachi, there is a certain structure that is used. And you can pick it out rather quickly. There are 6 oracles. You see on the screen here in those 4 chapters, God is going to speak 6 times. God is going to speak, and then after that, it will be followed up by a question. The people are going to ask it, or Malachi is going to anticipate the question. Paul did that a lot in Romans. It's kind of a imagined antagonist where Paul says something very intriguing, anticipating pushback. He goes ahead and just asks that question he anticipates and answers it too. Well, we're going to see that a little bit here in Malachi as well. He's going to make an oracle, then the question's going to be posed, and then clarification is going to be brought. And so you're going to see this repeat itself 6 times. There's going to be an oracle and a question. Then the next oracle is going to bring 2 questions. Then an oracle and a question. Anyway, as you work through the text of Malachi, you could have your little sheet of paper there beside you as you read. You could just mark in your Bible if you want. Make a little asterisk or something where the question is, where the oracle begins and ends. Make you another sort of mark to differentiate where the question is, and then another sort of mark where the answer is. Typically, the answers are usually bullet pointed in such a way as you could isolate the verse that is the answer to the question. And so within that, when you're studying the text and you're reading Malachi and you see the oracle, you read that oracle, you can get the gist of what the accusation is. This is the fault, this is the blessing, depending on whether the oracle is an oracle of doom or sin, condemnation, or whether it's an oracle of hope, peace, or promise. You can get the gist of what the oracle is, then see the question that the people are asking, and then the follow-up answer. And when you understand what's happening in each of those 3 phases, well, by the time you finish that 6th oracle, you're going to have a really good understanding of what's happening in Malachi. What the sin is, what's going on, what is it God has a problem with. And we're going to see here in Malachi that a lot of what's happening in Malachi is just almost scary and eerily similar to what we see happening today in Christianity. So it's going to be an interesting study. I'm not going to dig into the text of Malachi this evening because I'm hopeful that some of you guys will do this, and come next week we'll be able to have a really good discussion about 1, 2, maybe 3 of these oracles. And so I hope that you'll do that. I hope that you'll take time between now and then to work through this. It's a very short 4 chapters, and my Bible is just 2 pages. So I think it's really doable. Do you have any thoughts or questions about what we've talked about? I really didn't present enough for you to have a whole lot of questions about. So if not, I'm going to leave that screen up there. If you want to jot that down, I wish I could have printed off for you, but if you anticipate that you'll actually go through with this study, I'm going to leave it up there. You could even pull your phone out and take a picture of the screen. We used to do stuff like that in school whenever we knew we couldn't jot it down. We'd take a picture of it so we could pull it back up later. That'd be perfectly fine as well. If that's it, that is it. That's all we're going to do this evening. I'm going to go back home and enjoy the dark. All right. Thank you for your attention. You can wire it in for me as well. Oh, is that all we got to do is plug it in? That'll work.